Right then, here we go. Once again, I'm here with my mate Math.
Hiya.
And this is Tricycle Project Part 9, we think, isn't it?
I think so.
It's Tricycle Project Part 9, and as the title of the video says, it's also New Project Car Reveal. So, there's not much to say about the Tricycle, to be honest, apart from an update on what's happened. So I'll just show you one thing that did happen recently. Just before I went on the Lakes tour, actually, had a bit of a concerning incident, which turned out to be my fault. Right. So, what happened is, you might, in here, can you see this wire here? That's all charred and scorched. Look at that; it's all shorted out, and it leads to this wire here. Right. So I can't pull it out of the loom. I didn't want to pull it out of the loom. That wire's just dead now. I could just cut it out, but I've replaced this wire. What had actually happened is I was driving the car one day locally, and it just kind of started to misfire, a bit like, you know, when you're running out of petrol.
Right.
So, and the gauge was quite low actually. So I went and put some petrol in, thinking I might have been getting it bottom of the tank, but it wasn't that. It just got worse, and within 2 or 3 miles later, the car just wouldn't drive, and I couldn't start it.
Right.
I ended up getting pushed by some local lads in a garage to a local garage that were literally just up the road. So they helped me out get off at road. So thanks to them. And while I were in there, I tried to start it again, and when I turned the key, all the plumes of white smoke were coming out of the bonnet, right? And I thought, oh no, fire, right? I cut the ignition, pulled the battery kill switch as well. And that saved it. It didn't actually catch fire, but it melted all this loom. And it wasn't until I got home I had to get taken on by AA, and then I found the problem, because I noticed when I was looking inside, one of these wires to the distributor, the red wire, were completely missing.
Right.
I'm thinking, where's that red wire? Where's the red wire gone? There was just a black, because there's an electronic ignition module in there that I fitted.
Right.
And it turned out that what had happened is, when you buy these kits, these module kits, you get a little tie wrap in the kit, and I didn't use it because I wasn't exactly sure what it was for.
Yeah.
And what it's for is to tie wrap these wires away, to keep them at the edge of the thing, keep them on the edge of the kit.
Right.
And what happened is, it had been running for quite a while, no problem, with me getting my hands in and out every so often. These wires must have got nudged inside and created a loop until the wire were touching the rotor shaft.
Right.
So as I'm driving it, it's rubbing on it.
Yeah.
Rubbing on it, until eventually it broke through the insulation.
Yeah.
And then started shorting. So you started getting misfiring. And then what it must have done is, it must have shorted good enough that it welded itself to it, and it pulled the wire, ripped it off the coil,
Yeah.
and pulled it straight into the dizzy.
Jesus.
And wrapped it all around the wire was tightly wrapped around the coil.
Really? Right.
Around the rotor arm, should I say?
Right.
The base of the rotor.
My God.
So really, so this wiring is like 50-year-old, but it turned out to be something that I'd put in 2 months later.
Yeah.
And I'd not secured it properly.
Yeah.
That had caused that. And I was a bit worried, because before I found out what it was, eventually I found it was a simple fix. But I was due to go to the Lakes tour that weekend. Once I'd fixed it, I went to that Lakes tour. I did over 400 miles that weekend, and the car didn't miss a beat.
Yeah.
Didn't miss a beat. Up and down 25% inclines.
Yeah.
You know. I kept myself to the back end of the thing, back end of the line, because obviously this is a slow vehicle, especially going up hills. It's very low geared. It'll get up any hill.
Yeah.
But I have to get up sometimes in second gear, and people behind have just got to wait because it's high revving. But it'll get up, no problem.
Yeah.
It recently went to Whitby for a day out. Again, no problems. That's another 150 mile round trip. Called in at Gothland on the way, where they filmed Heartbeat. And if anybody's been there, the climb coming out of Gothland, where the steam railway is, that's another 25%.
That is a steeple.
That is mega steep.
That's steepest I know of around
it's
here.
Steeper than that Bluebell. Is it Blue Bank?
Yeah.
Going into Whitby. Steeper than that. So yeah, that were another one. And really, I've just been going to a couple of local shows. Went to Ripon last week, and a bit of an update regarding the future. This car has been invited to Festival of the Unexceptional, which is being held at Lincolnshire this year, Grimthorpe Castle in Lincolnshire, and it has been chosen as one of the 50 Concours de l'Ordinaire finalists. They call it Concours de l'Ordinaire because it's unexceptional. There's not meant to be any, there's not meant to be any Jags or Mercs there. It's meant to be your run-of-the-mill, bog-standard cars from whenever.
Yeah.
Cars that you just don't see anymore, really. So if anybody wants to have a close look at the Tricycle, it will be all polished and gleaming as much as they can. Just hope that we get good weather. It's a Saturday show, that, on the 30th of July. It's a one-dayer. The only other thing to mention about the Tricycle is there is one more. Another journey that I made. Me and a mate went to Powderham Castle for that car show. That was a great show, really good show, brilliant weekend, brilliant weather. But we didn't go in this.
Yeah.
But I did have to drive to Nantwich in this.
Right.
Which is another 180 mile round trip. 190 mile. So the Tricycle's been driving faultlessly, apart from that one incident that turned out to be my fault. But we've got one addition here. Look, that one's reattaching up there. That's come off there. I've got the spare wheel cover now. It's not an original Reliant piece. It's something that I had to get made up, but that's another one ticked off the 21 extra list.
Right.
So now the only ones I'm missing is, strictly speaking, metallic paint and the steering wheel glove. I'll never find a steering wheel glove, and even if I did, would I want to cover that lovely painted wheel? So just be covering that up.
Yeah.
So this is basically done now. The only other thing I might do with this is I might take off the SU carb and try the Weber ICH mod, because I've got a brand new one of them, and I just want to try it for tinkering's sake. Never know, it might not run as good. But that's the only other thing. I'm not going to try that yet. That's going to be towards end of season.
Right.
We can get on with talking about the new project vehicle, can't we?
We can.
Because that's going to be the bulk of this video. Basically, anybody who's watched the videos that we've done before, they'll have seen the Anglia van.
Yeah.
The Anglia van has gone. I've sold it. I got what I wanted for it. And the council lock-up garage that I were keeping it in, that's gone as well. So now I've only got one garage. So, because the Tricycle were finished and the Anglia van were finished, I'd had it 11 years, that van. I had nothing to do. I was getting bored. I'm always wanting to be tinkering and doing something.
Project City,
right? So the van's gone, and something has to replace it. So the question is, what? Right. So, what will the new project vehicle? Let's get some criteria first. First of all, it's got to be cheap. Right, well, that's classic Fords out then, really, isn't it?
Yep.
Classic Fords have just gone through the roof. I mean, maybe I did set myself an arbitrary limit of £4,000. I don't know why I said £4,000, but I set an arbitrary limit of £4,000. You might be able to get something like a Mark 1 Fiesta for that, or something more modern, something like a modern classic, like a Ford Ka. I saw one for sale at a Sheffield dealership. They only wanted £1,000 for it, and it looked, in the high definition photographs, it looked mint, and it were an early one as well, with the black arches on it.
Oh yeah.
Bright red, but with the black arches. But it looked so nice that even though it was cheap money, how much would I have to do on it? I wanted something to be getting stuck into. So I even looked at things like Vauxhall Viva, Bedford HA van. I did look at some Fords like Fiesta, but there were nothing available. I looked at Metros. I used to have a Metro. I looked at Allegros. but the thing with an Allegro is I would have probably wanted an estate, because I think the estate looks miles better than the saloon. That's going to be rare to find.
Yeah.
I looked at Marinas. I did look at Marinas. I was basically looking at cars that I would have bought as a first car back when I first passed my test when I was 19. So it was like going back in time to the 1980s. But seeing the prices of stuff, Bedford HA vans have gone absolutely ridiculous. And yet, when I was a kid, I used to be able to go to Rothwell Motor Auctions, and they'd be selling off the ex-British Telecom stuff.
Yeah.
Anything from 50 quid upwards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They were basically they were shots, some of them. So it's got to also sit on the driveway because I've given the garage up, so it's got to sit outside in all weathers. So it's got to be cheap, it's got to sit up driveway. So anything minty paint work, it's just going to get spoiled if it sits outside all the time. And it's got to be something easy to work on. I don't know. What can you get for that kind of money? I mean, there is bits and pieces, but if I bought something that were getting near to that budget, I've also got to include parts that I spend on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that £4,000 suddenly turns into 5 or 6.
Yeah.
So I want to keep it as low as possible, which basically means that whatever I get, it's not going to turn out like this, because it's just going to be too expensive to do. So that's what I considered, and those were the criteria. So new project reveal then, Math, yeah?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Ta-da! Here it is, new project. 1977 Reliant Kitten Estate. This was actually kind of top of my list, but I didn't think I'd find one. Certainly not that ticked all the boxes.
Right.
And they're very rare, quite a rare car now. They only made 4,500 of these, did Reliant. Some went to export. About 400 or 500 were vans. They're the rarest of the breed, and the rest was split between estates and saloons. And I specifically wanted an estate.
Right.
The kitten is known to be the 4-wheel version of the Reliant Robin. If you come to the back end, you can see the similarity. Just looks like a Robin estate, doesn't it? So we'll show you around this car. We're trying to get can't really get much wider angle shots on this. This washing here is not mine. Right. So let's have a look around the exterior first. To say this car is rough as a badger's arse, right? Let's be honest about it, right? If you look at the bodywork is pockmarked all over, and it's been brush painted. It's been brush painted this blue colour. That don't bother me in the slightest, because, as I said, it's got to sit out here on the drive in all weathers, and this fiberglass won't rust. And it's actually in good nick, other than it being, it's pockmarked all over the roof. I could go to the trouble of fixing all this, but to be honest with you, I don't think it's worth it in the long run. These rubbers, ancient rubbers, I think these are unobtainable. You can't get these. But again, this is something that's not priority. None of this is priority. The one Brucey bonus, right, is when we open the back door, we get to see the original colour. The glorious gusset brown. Right, so in time, this car will be put back to brown, even if I hand paint it. I'm not going to go to the extreme of having it professionally painted. This is never going to be a show pony. It's not going to reach the quality of the Tricycle. Mechanically and electrically, that's the priority, to get it so that it's as good as the Tricycle in that respect. But it's got to sit out here, and I'm not just going to plough loads of money into it. This is a proper hub nut vehicle.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
This is a proper hub nut vehicle. To get it is running and driving, actually. I should have said that. I drove it all the way home from the Cumbrian coast last week. It drives fine, the engine's fine, it pulls alright, the gearbox is fine, changes sweetly, no rumbling noises from the diff. It was 110 mile. It took me about 3 hours because I didn't go motorway. So the bodywork is all intact. There's no evidence of it being smashed. This door is odd because this is a Rialto door. Now, I didn't know this. Rialto doors can fit these kittens, and the hinges are correct. If you get a Robin door, you have to change the hinges. But the only thing that's different is that door handle mismatches the other side. So you've got this Rialto door handle, and on the other side you've got the original kitten handle, which, as it happens, matches the Reliant Regal and Rover P4. So It's on 12-inch wheels, as we can see. I don't like them. I don't like mini lights. I think they're too common. And there's a bit of a fandango look going on here, where the wheel's sticking out of the arch. That's because these are different offset to the original wheels. Original wheels are 24mm offset. These have had to have spacers fitted. I'm just not a fan of wheels with spacers. It's just my take. I have got a set of original 10-inch wheels that are going to go on this. They're just going to be Q rusted and quickly painted black. I've already got parts for this. We'll have a look inside. This is where we get to see how rough this is. Because I've made a start. I have made a start. Well, you see, the door trims. I've got the original kit and door trims up in the garage, so they will be fitted to these doors. The electrical system on this car were a nightmare. When I drove it home, the only things that worked on it were the indicators. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to drive. And even then, the driver's indicator still didn't work. The indicators did work. The only other thing that worked on it were the brake lights. Right. Nothing else electrically worked. The horn didn't work. The hazards didn't work.
Yeah.
The headlamps and side lamps didn't work. No main beam. The temperature gauge did work, but it were behaving funny, and the fuel gauge only showed a quarter of a tank when I filled it up before I set off home. So even the interior light didn't work. So I did manage to get it home because the indicators did work. And it turned out that I'll say a previous owner, not the previous owner, because I don't want to malign him if it wasn't him, right? But a previous owner had found that the indicator unit had gone faulty. So they swapped all the wiring over to the hazard unit, which you can do, but they didn't take out the old faulty unit. And I thought, oh, somebody's miswired this. That's why the hazards aren't working. Wired it all. It took me a while to realise that were faulty. £3.50 for a new part at MotorSave. Everything were fine. The only thing is, I've lost that nice, that soft clicky noise with indicators. I have it with the hazards, but I don't have it with them now because it's a brand new unit.
Right.
If I find something that's a straight swap at a jumble, I'll get that back. So as you can see in here, this is a work in progress. I've nearly finished with this. I've just fitted a brand new solid state voltage regulator on back at Speedo because I thought that might be contributing to these issues. I think I'm going to have to buy a new fuel sender unit for the tank. This is faulty, this ignition switch. It does work, but when you push against the spring, you have to be so gentle with it so it just catches. If you just turn it like you normally do in a car, it just goes dead. It goes too far and doesn't connect. So there's something wrong with that. This centre console unit, I'm just going to try and clean it up and fix it. It's all cracked here, but the reason it's cracked is because somebody has fitted this non-reliant choke that's from like a Mini or a generic, and they've attached it to this, so you're pulling against this flimsy plastic. It should be attached to that,
right?
And it can't fit through because it's non-reliant. So that will get fixed. There's no carpet. It all wants a right good clean up in here. These can you see how that moves? The steering column.
Oh yeah.
Steering bushes are knackered, so I've ordered a couple of them steering bushes. The dash, actually, the black dashboard, these tend to crack. This isn't. This is in really good condition. There's no cracks anywhere on this dash, so that's a good thing. It just wants a right good clean up. It is broken under here. If I go like that, you can see it moving.
Oh yeah.
It wants repairing under there with a big repair washer. But other than that, the dash is actually in good nick. There was a radio in here that I've pulled out, which I'm not going to use. I'll put my own in. The wiring was, it's taken me a while to sort it out. This system here, anybody who knows kittens, this is not a kitten. This is from a Reliant Rialto, where you've got indicators on this side, you've got your washers on this side. The advantage of doing this, apparently, is that you get 2-speed wipers. If you have a 2-speed wiper motor. Right. But a previous owner has gone to the trouble of doing this, but I've still only got 1-speed wiper motor. Right. And to be honest with you, I don't know. I'm still debating as to whether or not to get an original kitten unit that fits on this side, because I like to have the indicators on that side if I have a choice. Right. I might go back to all the plugs are still here. The wiring, this is the wiring. and the original plug is still dangling down here from where it was a single stalk. So I might go back to that. I haven't made my mind up yet, but as you can see, there's lots to do. Have a look in the back. Yep, just wants a good clean up really. I've actually cut a hole in the floor to get access to the sender unit, and I didn't quite calculate it properly. And what I might do is fiberglass that back in and then redo the hole. So I cut the hole here because it's a lot easier to get that sender unit out of there doing it this way than it is to drop the tank. That's what I've been told anyway, and yeah, it makes sense. So I'll probably just glass that back in and redo another hole where it should be. Even the number plate light didn't work. The heated rear screen, I don't know if it's working or not, but I've got it now where the light does come on the switch when you turn it on.
Right.
Whether this, and I am getting 12 volts across the two.
All right.
Across the two.
So there's power there.
There's power there, but whether this is actually working or not, I don't know. This handle originally had this in it, so it was really difficult to turn. Couldn't get leverage on it, and it didn't lock. Now it's right easy now, and it does lock.
Yeah.
This wants doing. There's a door catch fitting that I've ordered. That just helps locate the door a little bit better, so when it goes in, it helps support it just a bit better.
Right.
Right, the important part, the most important part, the chassis. Right, I had a good look around the chassis before I bought this, because this is probably the most important thing when you're looking at this. Now, I couldn't find anything wrong with the chassis until I got home and had a close look. The only thing I can see, there's a little hole here on this strut tube here. That wants welded, and that's the only thing I've found. Everything else on this is solid. There's just like surface rust on areas. But the one thing that could be costly, is that the front suspension, these front suspension units, they look like the original ones. I was told that these had been bought from the kitten register rather recently, but they don't look like that. A lot of these fixings here have not been off for years. These track rod ends, it all looks very old, and there is something wrong with this corner. There is something wrong with this corner because I can feel it bumping and bump steering. So I have got new bushes for these suspension units. I have got new bushes for the anti-roll bar, and I've got new drop links. I've got new track rod ends. But all this suspension, like the upper wishbones and the bottom wishbones, they are unique to the kitten. The ball joints are unique to the kitten. The track rod ends are mini, and the steering rack is based on Mark 1, Mark 2 Escort, but it's not exact, it's modified. So there are a few things that are unique to the kitten, and if I need, I'm going to have to get them through the kitten register if they're needed. I'm hoping that everything's going to be fine. We'll see. Here we are looking at the back end. Not a right lot to see. There's no obvious leaks coming from anywhere. It's not dropping stuff on the drive. The rear shockers, if I have to replace them, they're just mini front standard shockers. The brakes are all based around mini, although the brake drums are a bit different. This exhaust looks like it's on its last legs, but it is okay. It is working at the moment, but how long this will last I don't know. But that is another item that is unique to the kitten, so that could be expensive. But generally speaking, the chassis is in pretty damn good condition, so that's a bonus.
Yeah. Right,
here's the engine bay. So it's looking a bit grubby in here, to say the least, but again, the glorious gusset brown is in evidence. So what I am doing at the moment is the water pump. Yeah, the original water pump leaked badly. This is the original one. It had a metal fan. As you see, there's 4 fixing screws. These, I think James at CHD is redoing these now because he can recondition them, but look at this, how easy that spins. And if I go like this, You won't hear it, but I can definitely feel us playing that. Whereas this is a used one, but I think it's a good one. Look at that. That's what it should be like. There is a bit of resistance. It feels smooth and there's no play whatsoever. So I'm going to fit that. Now somebody's probably thinking to themselves now, if your water pump were leaking that bad, how did you get it home? Right? After I'd set off, the first thing I did was fill it with fuel at a local garage. And then I only got about another 3 mile down the road and it overheated badly. Steam, it started pinking. And I'm thinking, oh, ignition might want retarding. But the pinking was just a sign of it getting hot. But the gauge wasn't saying that it was red hot. And eventually I just lost all power and I pulled over at side of the road and all steam came out of here. And the steam would all come, it looked like it were all coming out of the back of this core plug. Right? So luckily I had water with me and I allowed it to cool down and I topped up the radiator and I got going. And I thought to myself, I am going to need loads of water to get home. I stopped off at a local Tesco's and I bought 3 of those 5 litre spring water things. And the idea was that I was just going to stop at every petrol station on the way home and top up.
Right.
But you know what? Once I topped it up with water and set off, it didn't overheat again. And this water pump wasn't leaking. This water pump wasn't leaking until I got home. Because when I got home, I thought he said this leaked and I waggled the thing. And when I waggled it, I saw a lot of water drop out, and from that point onwards, it leaked like a sieve. Right.
It must have been
so
just lucky.
I was so lucky that didn't leak. But I'm still concerned about this core plug, because if that is knackered, then it's going to be an engine out job to fix that. I'm kind of halfway there already to getting this engine out, because what I'm currently doing is, you see the engine mounts. I've got one out. There's one out. And I've got this one to get out, but it's stuck. That one was stuck, but I managed to knock it round with a long screwdriver. I've got another tool that's a lot longer that I'm waiting to arrive, and that might get that out. But if I can't get it out, again, engine out job to try and get inside there and chisel it round. So you know, there's a lot to do. The engine is quite sweet. The gearbox change is lovely, so there's quite a lot of plus points really. You know, the chassis is good, and some people say, oh, they don't like talking about money, but I think when you're doing like this type of project, you know, I think you should kind of mention stuff like that if people are wanting to get involved themselves, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what did I pay for this? Well, I'll tell you, I paid $1,400. Some people might think, phew, I wouldn't have given 400 quid for that, but I think a fully restored nice kitten, you're looking, if it's a proper minter, you're probably looking over £5,000. For a reasonably good A1 condition, you're probably looking between 4 and 5. They're not that expensive, even though they're rare. But to get something that's running and driving, it's tax free, it's MOT free, it will be running and driving. I know now the engine's fine. I've got confidence in the engine, I've got confidence in the gearbox, the chassis is good. You know, basically on the road for 1,400 quid. I think that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
You can get cheaper. I've seen projects on eBay just now that don't even have engine and gearbox fitted that are going for more than that. In fact, they don't even have engine and gearbox supplied.
Okay.
So I think I've done all right. Yeah, it is very rough. It wants a lot doing to it, but there we are.
Yep.
Right, I've had that car exactly 1 week. I picked it up last Wednesday, and since then they've been quite busy, because in that week I've looked and seen what it needs, which is quite a few bits, but at the moment not relatively expensive bits. So this is my kitty box. I've just called it kitty box. I went to Newby Hall at the weekend and I did quite well at the jumble. So, and also while we've been filming this, Posty has arrived and brought some bits. So there's electronic ignition kit for 45D distributor for the Reliant. I shall remember to use the tie rack this time. That's that. In here, I know what's in here. That is just, did I even open this? This is just a T-piece for fitting an oil pressure gauge. So, because in here I have bought an oil pressure gauge. There's a battery gauge, £5 for that. I don't know, £10 for that. I got a set of 4 of these. They are a bit dog-eared around the edges, but it were only 16 quid for a set of 4. And they'll brighten, because I'm going back to 10-inch wheels. I have got a full set of 5 10-inch wheels. New hose. There's bits and pieces in here. New bushes for the front struts. New 82-degree thermostat. There's a hinge there to replace one of them. I might not even fit that, I don't know. Another bit of new hose. We've got a pair of brand new track rod ends. I've got a pair of these drop links. A full set, I had to get a full set of 16 wheel nuts because the wheel nuts are different to what's on the alloys. That's the ignition switch, which on the end, that's the switch that's gone that goes in there. And I have retained the tiny screw, it's in the body that's in the car. These are little clips, not clips, the shims for altering the door. One of the doors does want a bit of alteration. I got these off Adam. I went round to Adam's. Adam's really well known in the Reliant Club, and he's had a look at the car. His dad wasn't very impressed with it, I have to say. His dad's got a beautiful bright yellow kitten, and I'll do well to get mine anywhere near what that is, but it won't be. Mechanically and electrically I hope it will, but certainly not aesthetically. Right, I'm keeping a list here of everything that I spend money on with this car. When I say everything, I don't mean, I'm not including petrol and stuff like that, but any parts that get bought, they're all on here. So anything I've got from the jumbles, anything I buy off eBay, off specialists, it all gets listed on here. And this here is the first order from James at CHG Classics. Good lad is James. Let's have a look at what we've got. I'm just hoping that he's packed everything I asked for. Let's have a look. Nice little package. Nothing in here is mega expensive. Let's have a look at what we've got. Right then. I asked for throttle return spring, that's in there. Water pump gasket. Switch, oh that's a new switch. I thought that might be a used one, but that's the ignition switch I was talking about. That's rubber grommet for the fuel pipe, because that's missing completely. We've got a pair of rear wheel cylinders, because I've noticed, which I didn't mention, I've seen a little bit of a weep coming from one of the wheels, and it could be a cylinder, it could be just a union. I bought them just in case. R9 fuel pipe. This is ethanol resistant. It's proper Codan 3133. That's just to go from the fuel pump to the carburetor. It's really important that that is ethanol resistant. We've got a used choke cable. I could have got a new one, but to be honest, looking at state car, a used one's good enough. What else have we got in here? We've got studs and nuts for the exhaust and an exhaust gasket, because I think that's going to want renewing. And here are proper brand new steering column bushes. They'll get fitted. So let me just have a look at here. Steering column bushes, water pump gasket, SU throttle return string for the neck grommet. Right, he's not putting a radiator overflow pipe, but that's no, it's only a piece of tubing, I can get that. R9 fuel pipe, downpipe gaskets, choke cable, ignition switch. Oh, there's no rear door catch. I needed a rear door catch. And there's no temperature sender unit either. I asked for a temperature sender unit. 2 rear wheel cylinders, so yeah, I'll just have to ask him about those. He just gave me a all-in-one price for this, so whether he's included them in the price and not Adam or not, I don't know. So anyway, that'll keep me busy for now. So there we are, that's the new project. Yeah, so this is the new project. Like I say, it's just a case of improvements, needing many improvements. But it's just going to be a little bit of a... It'll get me into any classic shows that I want to go to. So it's just going to be a case of cracking on with it and getting it to... It drove quite nicely on the A roads coming back. I had it up to 55 mile an hour, 60 mile an hour, and it drove nicely. But there is something wrong on this side. It does bump, it skips and bumps, and it feels quite harsh over potholes. So there's something wrong under there that I need to get to the bottom of. But other than that, the brakes are good. Normally the brakes is one of the very first things I do, but because there was so much wrong electrically with this car, I thought I'd better address them first. But the brakes were actually quite decent. I will give them some attention. I am definitely going to strip all these wheels down inside and inspect inside, especially that back one there. They will get, thoroughly checked over. But yeah, so that's it. This is then Kitten Project Part 1. So the next video will be Part 2. I didn't call it that Part 1 because I would have given it away, wouldn't I?
Yeah.
There'd have been no reveal. Right, there you go. See you all later.